For decades, the United States set the global agenda, militarily, economically, and culturally. Its influence shaped not just policies but the very aspirations of nations around the world. American culture, technology, and finance became the benchmarks for progress, and its military presence was felt on nearly every continent. But as we approach the end of 2025, that dominance is being challenged in ways we haven't seen before. New alliances are forming, and old certainties are being questioned. The BRICS nations, now expanded to include more members, are not just asking for a seat at the table. They're building a new one, with their own rules and priorities. This is a public, bold push for a multipolar world, where power is shared, not concentrated in the hands of a few. It's a vision that challenges the status quo and seeks to reshape global governance. BRICS now represents a massive share of the world's population and economic growth, arguing that the old system favors the West and leaves the global South behind. Their economies are growing rapidly and their voices are getting louder on the world stage. This isn't just politics. It's about who writes the rules for the 21st century, and who gets to decide what the future looks like for billions of people. The tension between the established order and rising powers is now the defining story of our time, shaping headlines and influencing decisions in every corner of the globe. Is this the start of a more balanced world, or the beginning of a new era of rivalry and instability? The answer is far from clear, and the stakes are higher than ever. The ground is shifting beneath our feet, and understanding why is crucial for everyone, no matter where you live or what you believe. Let's explore how the old map of global power is being redrawn and what it could mean for the future of our interconnected world. After World War II, the United States and the Soviet Union emerged as the world's two superpowers, dividing the globe into rival spheres of influence during the tense decades of the Cold War. Their competition shaped international politics, economics, and even culture as nations aligned themselves with one side or the other. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, the US suddenly stood alone at the top of the global hierarchy, marking the dawn of a new era. This unipolar moment saw America dominate not just militarily but also economically and culturally. American values, brands, and technology spread rapidly, influencing societies around the world. US-led institutions like the United Nations, World Bank, and International Monetary Fund promoted free markets and democracy, lifting millions from poverty and spreading American influence worldwide. These organizations became pillars of the New World Order, shaping global rules and standards. But many in the developing world saw these institutions as tools of Western interests, imposing economic policies that often hurt local populations and undermined national sovereignty. US interventions in Iraq and Afghanistan fueled resentment, and critics accused America of hypocrisy, championing democracy while supporting dictatorships and pursuing its own interests. Globalization, once America's greatest strength, also empowered rivals like China, India, and Brazil, who began to rise rapidly on the world stage, building their own economic and political influence. These nations began to question why key decisions about the global economy and security were made in Washington and Brussels, rather than in a more inclusive, multipolar setting. The seeds of a multipolar world were sown as dissatisfaction with US leadership grew, and calls for reform of global institutions became louder. The unipolar era was powerful, transformative, and shaped the modern world, but it was never destined to be permanent. Now, the world is shifting toward a new balance of power, as emerging nations demand a greater voice and influence in global affairs. The rise of BRICS is a direct response to this legacy, representing a collective push for a more balanced and representative international system. The stage was set for a new global contest as the world moved beyond America's unipolar moment and into an era of renewed competition and cooperation. BRICS started as a catchy investment term in 2001, grouping Brazil, Russia, India, and China as rising economies. But the leaders saw more: a shared frustration with a system tilted toward the West. The 2008 financial crisis, born in the US, shattered Western economic credibility and galvanized BRIC into a real alliance. South Africa joined in 2010, making it BRICS and expanding its reach to Africa. Their goal: reform global governance and give developing countries a stronger voice. They created the New Development Bank and Contingent Reserve Arrangement as alternatives to the World Bank and IMF. The 2024 expansion, adding Saudi Arabia, UAE, Egypt, Ethiopia, and Iran, supercharged BRICS' economic and energy clout. BRICS is now a major geopolitical bloc, challenging the idea that the West alone should set the rules. Its influence is only beginning to be felt. Donald Trump's America First policy marked a sharp break from decades of U.S. global leadership. He withdrew from major international agreements and used tariffs as weapons, unsettling allies and adversaries alike. This created a vacuum, and BRICS leaders stepped in. China's Xi Jinping promoted the Belt and Road Initiative, building a China-centric economic network. Brazil's Lula da Silva pushed for solidarity among developing nations and a BRICS currency to reduce reliance on the dollar. The BRICS approach emphasizes partnership and collective action, contrasting with America's zero-sum, go-it-alone strategy. This new vision appeals to countries long marginalized by the West. The world is now witnessing a clash of worldviews, unilateralism versus multipolar cooperation. Whether BRICS can deliver on its promises remains to be seen, but the contrast is reshaping global diplomacy. The US dollar has been the world's reserve currency since World War II, giving America enormous economic and political power. This status has allowed the US to influence global markets, set the tone for international finance, and shape the rules of the economic game for decades. Most global trade is done in dollars, and central banks around the world hold vast dollar reserves as a sign of stability and trust in the US economy. This widespread use of the dollar makes it the backbone of international commerce, from oil deals to tech imports. This lets the US borrow cheaply and use sanctions as a powerful weapon. When countries or companies fall out of favor, the US can restrict their access to the dollar system, making it difficult for them to trade or invest globally. De-dollarization is the effort to reduce dependence on the dollar in global trade and finance. It's a movement gaining momentum as countries seek more control over their own economies and financial systems. BRICS is leading this movement, seeing the dollar's dominance as a source of instability and US coercion. They argue that relying on a single currency exposes their economies to risks beyond their control. Sanctions on Russia and Iran have shown how the dollar can be used to isolate entire economies, cutting them off from global trade and investment. These examples have motivated other nations to seek alternatives. BRICS countries are now trading more in their own currencies. China and Russia use yuan and ruble, India pays the UAE in rupees, and the new development bank issues loans in local currencies. This shift is designed to build resilience and reduce vulnerability to US policies. They're even exploring a shared BRICS currency to rival the dollar-based SWIFT system, aiming to create a new global payment network that bypasses US oversight and control. If successful, de-dollarization would weaken US power and make sanctions less effective. It could shift the balance of economic influence toward emerging markets and new alliances. For the world, it could mean a more balanced financial system, with less concentration of power in one country. However, the transition will be slow and difficult, requiring new agreements, trust, and infrastructure. The dollar is deeply entrenched, woven into the fabric of global finance, but the trend is clear. Global reliance on it is fading as more countries seek alternatives and diversify their reserves. The stakes are enormous for both the US and the rest of the world. The outcome will shape the future of international trade, investment, and economic stability. The era of dollar supremacy is being challenged, and the world is watching to see what comes next. President Lula da Silva has become a leading voice for the Global South. He helped form BRIC in the 2000s and now pushes harder for a multipolar world. Lula argues that a handful of wealthy nations shouldn't dictate global decisions. He calls out inequality, slow climate action, and the lack of representation for developing countries. Lula questions why Africa and Latin America lack permanent UN Security Council seats and why trade is forced through the dollar. He champions a BRICS currency and a new model of cooperation based on dignity and sovereignty. This message resonates with countries tired of Western dominance. Lula's bold stance risks alienating the US, but he believes the Global South's collective power can reshape world affairs. Whether he succeeds or not, Lula has forced the world to listen to the South's demands. His leadership is changing the conversation about global power. It's not just nations shaping the new world order. Tech billionaires like Elon Musk now wield global influence. Musk's companies, SpaceX, Tesla, and X, impact everything from transportation to war. Starlink's role in Ukraine made Musk a key player in international conflict, raising questions about private power in public affairs. His control over X lets him shape global discourse, moving markets and influencing political debates. Musk's decisions can have life-or-death consequences, yet he's accountable to no government. Other tech giants in AI and biotech also hold immense, often unregulated power. As the West and BRICS compete, these individuals will be courted as allies and feared as rivals. Their unpredictable influence adds complexity to the shifting world order. The age of the tech titan is here, and it's rewriting the rules of power. The BRICS-West rivalry isn't just a headline, it will affect your life. As the world order changes, so will the rules that shape your job, savings, and future. De-dollarization could impact interest rates, inflation, and the cost of goods. A more balanced global economy might open new markets and opportunities, but also bring volatility. Politically, expect more competition and less predictability. Alliances may shift and global problems could become harder to solve. For billions in the global south, BRICS offers hope for a fairer system and a stronger voice. A multipolar world could mean more diverse solutions and richer cultural exchange. The transition will be turbulent, but it's also a chance for a more representative global system. Navigating this new world will require awareness and engagement from everyone. The old certainties are gone, the future is up for grabs. How we respond will shape the world for generations. We're living through a rare moment when the rules of the world are being rewritten. The rise of BRICS is a structural shift, not a passing trend. This isn't just about one country's decline, it's about a multipolar world with more voices at the table. The transition could bring rivalry and instability, but also opportunity for a fairer, more inclusive order. Avoiding conflict will require wise leadership and compromise from all sides. Leaders like Lula and the BRICS bloc are demanding a system that reflects global diversity. The rise of the rest can be an invitation to build genuine partnership, not just a threat to the West. The future is unwritten and we are all participants, not spectators. Staying informed and engaged is more important than ever. The task ahead, ensure this transformation leads to a more balanced, peaceful world for all.